Welcome to the second video podcast in our NJASA Frontline Leadership for Extraordinary Times series. I'm Dr. Richard Baza, and we're speaking today with NJASA President Dr. Scott Rocco and President-elect Dr. Margaret Dolan. Welcome and thank you both for joining me today. I know how busy you both are, and I appreciate your taking time to speak with our members and share experiences and the challenges you're facing during these unprecedented times. Before we begin, I hope you and your families are well and feeling healthy.
Thanks, Rich. And Peg, nice to see you. Everything is going well here in the Rocco household. I got my daughter home from college, the boys home from school, and my wife, who is a nurse, is busy like many of the first responders. So thank you very much.
And I'd like to add, we're doing everything that the medical professionals are telling us, following all the rules, not just for ourselves, but also because we count on those medical professionals. And whatever they guide us to do, all of us should be participating in. We should be distancing, we should be taking care of our health, and doing our best just to support everyone who's working hard on this.
Thank you both. We are certainly in extraordinary times and learning more each day as we go through these times. We're all dealing with this new norm of social distancing, as you mentioned, working remotely and implementing online education programs. Please give us an idea of how you're personally handling the situation and how you're dealing with the day-to-day management of your school systems. Scott, how about you first?
Thanks, Rich. So like many chief school administrators, we are working close to 20 hours a day. We were in a mode of response to the emergency. We were in a triage mode as we were moving forward. I think a little over 2 weeks now, we're getting into a rhythm of what's happening in our buildings. We're holding daily meetings with our principals. We're running daily meetings with our faculty and staff. As a superintendent, I am putting out a daily update to my community and a daily update to my faculty and staff. We are meeting with local government officials as we move through this difficult time, and we are managing as best as possible. We're transitioning to a complete remote learning mode, which means that a percentage of my students already had devices and Wi-Fi at home. When we initially took the survey, we were about 83%. When we redid the survey, we went up to 87%, and we've been giving out laptops and Chromebooks to students who did not have a device at home, and we're up into the high 90s at this point with another giveaway tomorrow of loaners, and we're going to get close to about 98 or 99%. So what we're trying to do as a community is put as much of the learning online for our students while managing some of the homes that don't have Wi-Fi or devices. But we are adapting by the day and by the minute as we move forward.
And I'd echo a lot of what Scott just said. We also have moved to distance learning and keep on increasing towards 100% of our students. Not quite there yet, but we're trying. In addition, there are some essential employees who have to be there. There aren't many at all, though. Very, very few. For example, we have custodians on a rotating basis just checking our buildings to make sure we don't have a normal problem like water leak or a problem with heat or something. Also, if somebody has an emergency and has to go to the building, they need permission. But if somebody does go to the building for something, the custodians have to go back and they have to disinfect that area. So they're definitely taking care of that. Additionally, we have great resources for disinfecting. We have prepared for that, luckily. So we've been helping our local police department and fire department. Some of our maintenance crew have been disinfecting their vehicles because they're some of the ones on the front lines. So they've been going and helping with that. Our tech team, I could not give them higher praise because they are right there getting the devices ready. Hearing the story about the family where there was one computer and it no longer works, and trying to figure out how to get the technology to that person, finding the families that just recently moved in and have no internet access and getting them a hotspot. They've been tremendous, and we really count on them. Food services, we're rather fortunate. We don't have a large number of students who require free and reduced lunch, but we have students, and they are making sure that those students are getting food that can be brought home. We're also working with some of our local groups to add to that food so that the families, not just the kids, but the families have food as well. So those people are really working hard on all of that.
You know, Rich, Peg brings up a good point when she's talking about all the different groups of people within our school system that are working hard. And I want to give a shout out to the Hamilton Township School District, the faculty and staff. Everyone, every single one of them have risen to the occasion and made this bearable for our community and for our students. And I know my colleagues across the state would say the same for all of their faculty and staff. So I just want to say, for everybody in education, no matter what your role is, no matter what your responsibility is, thank you for the effort that you've put forward to make this bearable and make this workable in very difficult times.
Yes, well, and I know Peg feels exactly the same way. She's expressed some of that, and thank you for expressing it to all our members and their staff out there. You know, you've really addressed a good component of what I was going to ask next about how your positions have changed as the Chief Education Officer, since you have such responsibility of all aspects. And you've indicated a number of those things, but I'm impressed at how quickly we've had to turn around and change. And I guess one of the questions that goes beyond some of these tasks that you've had to assume in a different way is support for your community members themselves. What kind of things are you hearing from your parents, from your kids as you interact along with other community members? Let's start with Peg.
I would say that is a wide array, and I think you have to listen carefully because you don't know what some families are going through. So you have to ask and find out more. Again, what we've heard from them are fears about the illness. We've heard not too much, but a little bit of confusion about the technology, but there are always people ready to reach out. Fears because their child had been receiving supportive services in school, and now they're at home and the parents are not quite sure what to do. The counselors and the case managers have been reaching out. When we don't see a child attending remote classes, someone reaches out and keeps reaching out until we get answers. There's a wide array, and it's a really good time to listen. And when you get an email, to really read it carefully, or when you get a phone call, make sure that you are listening carefully and thinking through and trying to imagine what's going on the other side of that phone call.
John, how about from your perspective?
I would echo everything that Peg has said. I've heard a lot of appreciation from the public. They've appreciated the constant communication from their children's teachers, guidance counselors, social workers, principals, and from central administration. That's been a key to this. They've appreciated that. And then, as Peg has said, we've encouraged our community to reach out to us if there's a problem. If there's a problem with the learning, if there's a problem within the family, to let us know so we can help our families work through this. On top of that, one of the things that we've heard is appreciation for, in our updates, we've included social emotional learning and social emotional tips for families on handling this crisis. And they've thanked us for that opportunity. The other thing that we heard was last week we did a spirit week for the district. So each day we had a theme, and we heard a lot of positives about keeping morale up among our students and our families and our faculty and staff. And each day they posted pictures with a hashtag on the social media feed. So they've really said to us, continue to do that, continue to try and keep good feelings going forward in a difficult environment.
And that's a very good point. It's amazing to me how many of our staff have found creative ways, based on their own skills, creative ways to help build that sense of community. So all of our elementary schools participated in that program about finding the rainbow, and families around town have created rainbows of various materials hanging around their house so that kids can, at least even if they can't go around, they can drive around with their families looking for the rainbows, and they have inspirational messages that help not just our elementary school kids, but help some of our older residents in town and give them hope, because they know that this will end, and we will find hopefully a rainbow at the end of it. But the art teachers, the programs that they're doing, the creative morning announcements that are being sent to families from different schools, music teachers who have taught the kids how to play in an ensemble when you're in your own home. And done that with such finesse and so much of a sense of community. Some of our high school sports teams are competing. I'm not quite sure how to explain it, but they have to practice their their soccer skills with toilet rolls. And they compete, the boys soccer against the girls soccer. Now lacrosse is trying it and adapting it. So many people with creative ways to just keep the spirit going as well as the education.
Incredible. You're talking a lot about communication, and obviously we've used social media. We're using a lot of technologies. What are you finding that works best for your communicating with staff, community, and students? Peg, why don't you continue?
Sure. So, we keep on trying to find that balance. I think a lot of people are overwhelmed right now. So if you're getting messages from your teacher and then your principal and then the subject person, it can be overwhelming. So we try to find the balance. We're using social media to promote some of the good stories, some of the ones I just mentioned. When something is changing, however, and it impacts either a school or the entire district, that I do send out, or the principal sends out, but we try not to inundate, and people are so tired right now. So honestly, we're trying to be succinct, and we use titles to try to get people focused on what the topic is, because people are trying to do their jobs. They're trying to be good parents. They're trying to figure out how to get food in the house. They're tired. So we're trying to help them out with that and try to streamline the communication a bit when we can.
Scott, how about in your district?
Sure. So again, I agree 100% with Peg. Early on in this process, we were sending a robocall out from the district, from the building, from teachers reaching out, and it was a lot for parents, but it was kind of a very fluid time as we were trying to adapt to this. I've let my community know that we will no longer be sending robocalls on my update weekly or daily update. Instead, we'll post it. We're using our website. We have a special page dedicated to all updates, like most districts do. We're using our district social media feeds, so Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm using my personal Twitter feed also to get information out there, and so are a lot of my administrators. But we are also trying not to communicate too much where parents and families are no longer paying attention to what's coming out, because what we have coming out is important. And so early on, first couple of days, those were 4-page updates. We're down to about 2 pages, and I expect it's going to be about a page to a page and a half moving forward. We're also talking about decreasing the superintendent's weekly update, daily update, to a 3-day-a-week update, just so parents can focus on those 3 days to see what's happening. We don't want overload. And as Peg has mentioned, our families are home. We have parents working from home, kids working from home, and oftentimes they are sharing the same devices. So the opportunity to go and see messages is limited. So we want to make sure that those messages are important and not coming out too often.
You both talked about the amount of information that's coming in as time goes by. The constraints on movement are only getting greater. The outlook for the timeline is extending as far as the opportunity to return to school. Some questioning if we might be able to do that at all. We have increasing unemployment. We have people worried about accessing food. These are incredible pressures and tensions that are on our community. And as the scientists are looking for ways to get us through this period of time, besides social distancing, what medical science can bring to us. You as school leaders, as district leaders, as community leaders, you're really charged with instilling hope in the way that you're talking about and providing optimism. And so that's becoming increasingly more difficult. You've talked about some of the ways that you've done that. But as we close our discussion today, can you share any recommendations or provide some final advice that you think might help not only our members in their communications, but help all in talking with the communities, their families, and their children? Scott, why don't you go first?
Sure. So I think the first thing to remember is we need to be positive. We need to convey that this is something that we will get through. We'll get through it together. We're working hard, all of us together, our teachers, our staff, our families, our students, and our community needs to know that. And we need to remind them of that, because sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes you're doing this day in and day out, and you can struggle, but we want to keep people feeling as if they are being successful and moving forward. We talk often in my district about One Hamilton, That was going to be our 3 to 5 year strategic planning goal, moving towards One Hamilton. I can tell you we've probably done it instead of in 3 to 5 years, we've probably done it in 3 weeks. We've demonstrated that skill, that ability, that willingness to come together. And I think one of the ways that we continue to push the positive as we move forward is to show people what is being done in our community, to demonstrate that positive and to highlight the positive work being done by many people so that people understand that they are not alone. We are in this together. We will get through this together, and we need to reinforce that with people. I'm not just saying that. I truly do believe that. And my community and many communities around the state, if not every single community in the state, is demonstrating that as we move forward.
I have to heartily agree with Scott. And I mean, one of the amazing things that has happened over the last few weeks is the amount of professional growth done by our teachers and our administrators. They had to learn quickly. The very essence of what they do is their personal connection with the students in front of them, right? That is our essence. And all of a sudden we took that away and said, now teach. And what did they do? They learned new platforms. They learned new strategies. They learned from each other. We have online professional development almost 24/7, and they're taking advantage of it. Principals and administrative secretaries and paras are trying to help as well. The growth is incredible, and it is something to celebrate. And we will get through this. We'll get through it together, and we may be a little bit better off when we finally get through to the end.
Well, Dr. Scott Rocco, Dr. Margaret Dolan, I want to thank you both not only for participating in our conversation today, but for your leadership of the New Jersey Association of School Administrators. I'm confident that your insights and guidance will help not only our members, but those that are tuning in to our podcast. I want to thank you again, and I want to say to our viewers and to our members, please remember that we will be distributing one interview per week. So please monitor your email, visit njasa.net, and subscribe to our NJASA podcast. Until then, I'm Rich Vaza, Executive Director. Stay well, be well with your family, and I look forward to seeing you in our podcast next week.